Today we've got 50 big blinds in our stack, and it's on purpose. Stick around and I'll explain why. Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Exceptional Poker Video. I'm doing something a little bit different today. Got an email from a blog reader, YouTube video watcher, and this player plays weird poker. He plays actually on Poker Stars. He plays the fast fold version over there. I forget what they call it, Rush Poker or whatever they call it there. It's equivalent to Zone here, except there's the difference is there that the tables aren't anonymous, but otherwise it's the same. And yeah, admittedly that is a big difference. But he does something weird and wanted me to comment on it, and we exchanged a number of emails about it. He plays 100 NL over there, but he buys in for half stack, and I don't have a lot of experience short stacking. In fact, the short stacking that I have done in the past and have read about, typically it's not, the advice is not to buy in for half stack. It's usually something less than that, 30, 35, maybe 40 big blinds instead of 50 big blinds like we did here. But he's convinced that that it's profitable for him, and he wanted to know my thoughts on it. So we had a couple of back and forths. We actually did a little Skype session to kind of talk through the whole thing. Okay, so I got re-raised here, $6. This is really marginal. I'm going to call with the idea that I'm sort of set mining and trying to look for overcards to the board, which we did hit. I think he's got a hand like ace king, ace queen, something like that, and so I'm going to call again here. Going to check, just basically check call down here, get the money in. If he bets moderately small here, yeah, and that's unfortunately like the worst card in the deck for us, because I think that really smacks his range. In which case I'm just going to fold. So, boy, he's giving me a good price, but there's a flush there, there's a straight there, there's an overcard. I think I just have to let it go. And now I'm going to buy back in for half stack. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this and then buy in. Okay, and I'm back. I just bought back in. So anyway, this reader buys in at half stack tournament, fast fold games on Stars, and he wanted to know my thoughts on it. And he basically kind of walked me through his math, his way of thinking about it, and why he thinks that buying in for half stack is sort of a profitable play for him. He plays kind of a short stack strategy, a modified short stack strategy, and it works for him. So anyway, we went back and forth. We exchanged some emails. It was intriguing enough to me that I figured, sort of as an experiment, I was going to try it for a couple of sessions and just see what I thought of it in general. Kind of the big picture thought on it is that it reduces a lot of your implied odds hands. When you've got suited connectors and things like that, you're often not getting enough implied odds because the effective stacks are so low. But it does make your post-flop play a little bit easier. You can get committed a lot quicker with single pair hands. And this was his argument, is that it made his life easier post-flop. I'm a pretty good post-flop player. I kind of know where I'm at usually in these hands. So I'm not sure this is something I would want to stick with for very long, but I did want to give it a try. And so You guys are coming along with me, and we're just going to kind of see how this goes. And we already started off not so well. Okay, so in this case, we've got top pair, awful kicker, pretty wet board. This guy is short enough, and this is one of those situations where if you look the pot to the stack, we are pot committed. So I'm just going to put maximum pressure on him because he's so short stacked. We're basically pot committed with top pair. And this is what the reader who contacted me was basically trying to point out, is that it makes that kind of post-flop decision so easy. In that particular case, it was extremely easy because the person was so short stacked, much shorter than we are. But it's kind of an interesting approach. I just want to see how it goes, and just primarily so that I can maybe talk a little more intelligently to him. I'm going to let this one go, actually. I can talk a little more intelligently about maybe tweaks to his game that he can make to maximize his expected value playing that way. I tried to convince him to, get better post-flop and to buy in deeper, 100 big blinds deep. But he was having none of it, and that's fine. That's the great thing about poker, is you kind of can play however you want to play. If you want to win, there are certainly, in my opinion, good ways to do that and hard ways to do that. I think he's playing a harder way to do it, but regardless, it's kind of interesting. Okay, so this is one of those situations. So we are getting enough by the 15-to-1 rule here to set mine, and in fact, this is a pretty good situation because our villain is opening under the gun, so his range is pretty good, and he's more likely to get married to his hands. Got to check it back here. He's not going to call with worse if I bet. He could have a hand like ace-king very easily here, and he's just waiting for us to hit something. There's overs. It's there's lots of ways we're beat on that board, so we're not putting any more money in. The pre-flop decision to call with the intention of set mining didn't change on that flop, regardless of his actions. There's just too many ways that an under-the-gun opener hits that board, and so we don't get married to it. So anyway, when you're short stacked like this at 50 big blinds, it reduces your maneuverability somewhat. It strips out a lot of hands like suited connectors, suited gappers, suited aces, those kind of hands from being playable from a speculative point of view. They're probably still playable from an opening point of view, meaning if it folds to us and we open raise in late position with those hands, they're probably still profitable. But when somebody open raises in front of us and we've got 10-9 suited, and we put them on a pretty specific range, it's very hard for us to call that, even if we're going to have position, even if we have a good read on the opponent and all of that, because we're just going to miss so many times, and then we're going to have to, we don't have a lot of post-flop maneuverability, meaning we don't have a lot of bullets in our gun to fire, like multiple street bluffs and things like that are kind of all removed from our arsenal. And that's the problem with playing these short stackers. I'm not saying that short stacking is not profitable. Certainly, years ago I did dabble in some short stacking where I was playing 35 big blinds, and it's almost a reshove or fold type scenario that you're in a lot of the times. And I made money at it. It wasn't a lot of fun, to be honest. One of the things I like about poker is the thought process and actually having to work through these puzzles in each hand and figuring out when 2 and 3 barrel bluffs and, trying to extract value and stringing people along and all of that good stuff. You kind of didn't get to do when I was playing some short stack, and that's kind of true here too. A little less so because we've got a little bit more maneuverability, but otherwise, yeah, I don't know if this is really for me, but I did want to play a session or two. I'm recording this particular one just so that I can kind of get my head back up to speed on what short stacking is about, in particular 50 big blinds. Buy-ins, so that I can talk a little more intelligently and maybe help this player out. Again, it's not my expertise by any manner of means, but maybe I can help him out. So You guys get to come along for the ride. We're not going to re-raise here with the queen 8 off. We'll be out of position multi-way with a really not great hand. Pretty dry board. Anybody with a pair of deuces is not going anywhere at this point. I think it's the Beluga theorem that says nobody's ever folded a full house. It's not quite 100% true, but there's a lot of truth in that statement. Really hard for small stakes players to fold full houses. So when the board is tripped like this, 3 jacks, you gotta, just give up. Maybe with ace, with an ace high there, we might look that guy up if we had more reads on him, but otherwise, no. So this player that contacted me, basically his strategy is to buy in for 50 big blinds, play a session until he gets up. Well, if he loses it, he rebuys. But if he gets up to $75 or $80, in this case, and $100, get up to 75 or 80 big blinds, he cashes out. And he quits, and he sits out for 15 minutes or whatever PokerStars requires before he can buy back in. Maybe they don't even require that in these fast fold games. But anyway, he cashes out, goes south, as they say, takes his profits, and then he rebuys back in and starts it over again. And he claims that he's making 5 big bets per 100 doing that, which is pretty solid. I know a lot of players who play normal poker, quote-unquote normal poker, who aren't anywhere near that. I'm around, over the last 250,000 hands or so played, I'm right around 8 big blinds per 100, which is just crushing it. And that's, you can't really expect to win much more than that. And in fact, I win quite a bit less than that rate when I play longer sessions too. Those are over, I typically play 30 to 45 minute sessions when I play. And I can maintain that kind of focus and my real A game for that short of a period. But beyond that, my win rate really starts falling off. But he's winning 5 big bets per 100, which is fantastic at 100 NL. He's multi-tabling the fast fold games there, and almost earning a living at it, I think. We didn't really get into too many of those details. He lives overseas, and I'm not sure what his cost of living and all that is where he lives, but it's, you can almost make a living on that if you can maintain that for long enough sessions. This is called the wet of all wet boards, and the range that he calls with here, I'm not too scared of the hearts, even though that does wet it up, but Jack 10-9 is right in the middle of his calling range. I'm not putting any money into this pot. I'm done, basically. I think my strategy here is if I drop down around 30, maybe down to 30, 35 big blinds, then I'm going to top back up to 50. I didn't really ask him how he does that when he plays, but that seems to make sense. If I get less than 35, then even the short stack strategies, I think, are out the window, and I really don't know what to do at that point. Wait for aces and kings, I don't know, and get blinded away. That doesn't sound right to me. Okay, we got a limp under the gun, a complete here. I think this is a pretty good squeezing spot, so I'm going to squeeze and see if we can just take it down. Now we got called, and I think that's a pretty good board for us. Although, if I think about the hands that he's limping with under the gun, there's a lot of small pairs in his range, so I do have to be wary of that if he came along. So I think my strategy here is I'm going to keep topped up around 50. When I drop down to about 35, I'll buy back in. But between 35 big blinds and 50 big blinds, I'm just going to let it ride. And obviously above 50, I'm going to be happy. And maybe I'll even try what he suggested, and that is when I get above 75, 80 big blinds or so. I'm going to re-raise the ace-queen here. This is the kind of short stack hand that you are happy to get it in with because SPRs, it's pretty good. We got backdoor, we got 2 overcards, and backdoor. I'm going to put maximum pressure on this guy. Be very hard for him to continue without a jack in his range. So We had overcards, we had backdoor flushes, we had backdoor straights. You know, there's a number of things there. We had a fair bit of equity in that situation, kind of hidden equity against his range. So when I get to, if I'm lucky enough to get up to $80 or so, then I guess I cash out. So you guys are learning real time with me here. So, okay, aces in the big blind. I like aces on the button. I like aces in the big blind. I like aces anywhere. Come on, we want this guy to shove. So again, we're not screwing around. We're just, you know, we're going to re-raise here. If he folds, he folds. But we don't want to play our pocket aces out of position, give this guy a free look at a flop and, you know, hit 2 pair, and then where are we? So the standard rule I operate under when I play poker, and you should as well, is unless there's a damn good reason not to, meaning you have tons of fold equity, meaning if you bet, everybody's going to fold, and you don't want that to happen. Okay, in this particular case, I'm looking at stacks. I'm a little bit nervous about this guy. I think I'm just going to call and then reevaluate if we get squeezed or reshoved on. Anyway, the rule in poker is if you think you're ahead, bet. Again, unless you've got so much fold equity that, and you don't want fold equity, you want people to stick around, that if you bet, everybody's going to fold. So we're done here. We're kind of set mining there with the jacks. So if you think you're ahead, bet. Build the pot. With the aces pre-flop, by definition, we are ahead. You know, the absolute worst situation we can find ourselves in is if the guy has aces as well and we end up chopping. But aces are the best possible pre-flop starting hand, of course, obviously. And so we think we're ahead. We know we're ahead. And by my rule, you should be re-raising. Okay, and here we think we're ahead. We should be betting for value and charging this guy to come along. I can rep a king here very easily. I can rep big pairs, that kind of thing. He came along pretty quickly on that flop. You know, I think another barrel might get him to go away, and I'm completely wrong. And now the board is 3 flushed, straights out there. I think I'm just checking. He's got a weak king, yeah. So, c'est la vie. If you think you're ahead, bet. And what I should have realized there is that we weren't ahead after he called twice. So I wonder if a third barrel on the river there would have gotten this guy to go away. Okay, we got a limp under the gun. This is one of those situations where it looks so tempting to call, but I've got an RIO hand out of position, multi-way, you know. You'll probably send me hate mail, some of you guys, and say, how could I possibly fold that? I've got enough equity to call. Perhaps, but my other rule, I've got many rules in poker, but one of my other rules is keep things simple. You know, don't overcomplicate things. Folding doesn't cost me anything, so folding is the right play there for me if I don't want to overcomplicate things. Yeah, maybe it was more plus EV to just call and then play post flop, but otherwise. Okay, so here we got an under the gun open raise from a decent player. He's got a pretty healthy stack. We've got 10s in late position. We're calling with the intention of set mining. So let's ask ourselves about this guy's range. What is he opening under the gun? Well, what are we opening under the gun? Well, lots of aces and kings. So therefore, we're not going to take a stab at this pot. The hearts are a little scary now too. It might scare this guy as well to see 3 hearts on the board, but you know, aces and kings are well within his range, as are queens and jacks and hands like that. So we're kind of done with this hand. Even if we hit a spike to 10 on the river here by some miracle, we'd have to be wary of the flush. We wouldn't love getting all our money in. We probably would, but we wouldn't love it. So gonna let it go. 4 to the flush out. We don't have the heart. You know, just fold. Ace king in the big blind. We always like that. Like aces, we like ace king pretty much anywhere. We don't like it so much multi-way, and it is harder to play out of position, but we still like ace king. It's one of the top 5 starting hands in poker, so we're gonna play it. Okay, we get it in. If he's got aces or kings, God bless him. Okay, we're gonna flip. We just gotta fade a queen, and that's why you get in with ace king. It's you're almost certainly in a flip, or you've got your opponents crushed. Sometimes you end up against aces or kings, but if you look at the money that's dead in the middle and you do the expected value, we were both right to make that call to get the money in there. And that's sometimes a little bit hard for people to understand. We're going to open the king 4 here purely as a bluff. This guy's deep enough and looks proficient enough that he could fold there. So again, it's a little bit weird for people who are new to the math of poker, expected value, but because of dead money, the effect of dead money, 2 players can actually have the best of it getting their money in, which is kind of weird. And any money that's in the middle of the pot already, even if I put some of that money in there, it doesn't belong to me anymore. It's part of the pot, and it's considered dead money. And I add that into the amount that I stand to win. And so with the ace-king there, the expected value of getting the money in pre is plus EV. And I've got more than a big enough bankroll to suffer the variance of making that call. It's a thinner value situation, but it's the right play. And similarly, him with the queens there shoving on us, he did have some fold equity. If I had a smaller pair or something like that there that I might fold, or a suited connector or something like that. So he's got some fold equity there. Plus the dead money makes the pure hot and cold equity situation for him and an expected value a positive EV play. So we were both right to get the money in. So a little weird playing 50 big blinds, but something different, something new. And like I said, I don't know how many of you guys do this or something like this, but and if you do, leave a comment or send me an email at mark@exceptionalpoker.com. I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts on why you do it and kind of your strategy and the pros and cons and how well you do at it. I'm really curious about that as well. I don't intend to abandon 100 big blind poker anytime soon, but I'm always curious about these kinds of things. It just fascinates me that there are people out there that take these different approaches to poker and make it profitable. Again, 5 big blinds per 100 is pretty good. So 5 big blinds per 100 here, fast fold. It's roughly, I forget how many hands per hour you get in at zone poker, but it's on the order of 100 hands. So if he's multi-table and he's got 2 tables open, he's making $10 an hour doing this, so, or more. Maybe he's got, I don't know how fast the PokerStars games go, but he could be making $10-15 an hour, which ain't bad. Gonna raise the 5s. Again, if you think you have the best hand, open raise, bet. Charge your opponents, build value. So, hope you guys are doing well. It's Friday afternoon here, waiting for the wife to come home. I'm gonna go visit my daughter, see how she's doing, and we have a standing Friday medical appointment with her that we go by and see her and meet with her doctors and all that. And it always kind of puts my week in perspective. Okay, so here, now this is one of those weird situations, if 100 big blinds deep, I might even re-raise, and I'd definitely consider calling. I'm going to call here, kind of set mining. Pretty dry board. He could have ace, king, ace, queen, king, queen suited, 10s, 9s. He could also have aces, kings, queens as well. But I think I put some pressure on him here. That's a pretty dry board. We might end up getting the money in here. But that board does not hit a sizable fraction of his hands, which are the ace kings and ace queens and ace jacks and king queen suited and and those kind of things. So it's really hard for him to continue there without an overpair, and it's a small part of his range. He could continue with a pair, which I'm betting for value there, in a sense, almost, well, kind of as a semi-bluff in a way, but really for value. I think I have the best hand. I want to charge him to see some more, another card, and I'd like him to come along with a smaller pair. Let's say he re-raised us with eights there. I want to charge him. But I think he ended up folding something like ace-king, and that's fine. So anyway, I'm going to go see my daughter. As I was saying, it kind of always puts into perspective if I've had a crappy week, I go see her and I see what's important in life, all of her medical issues and trouble that she has in life. And the point is, you got to back up and look at the big picture, and losing $50 in a no-limit zone poker game, or having a bad day at work where the boss yelled at you, or anything like that, just pales in comparison to the struggles of a disabled child and all the issues that they have in life. So keep that in mind, folks. Everything is relative in life. And with poker, remember, you are choosing to sit down to play this high variance game called poker. If you're choosing to do that, then by definition, you're choosing to accept the realities of poker. And one of them is this is high variance. It can be painful. You're going to suffer bad beats. You're going to suffer coolers. You're going to play poorly and get angry at yourself. You're going to not believe the luck of your opponents. It can be totally frustrating at times, but then pause, stand back, and ask yourself, okay, or remind yourself, I'm choosing to play poker. I actively decided to sit down. This is money I have set aside specifically to gamble with. And I know the realities of poker. I know what I'm getting myself into, so that's just poker. Goes back to those three ways of losing. There's three ways to lose at poker. One of them is bad beats, which are good things, as I said before, because by definition you got your money in good and the other guy got lucky. Second way is coolers, which is just the luck of the draw. I've got kings, he's got aces, all the money goes in and I lose. That's a cooler. And then bad play. And bad play, you can learn or you can whine, as a friend of mine says. And remember, you're choosing to sit down here. I want to get better. I love the game. It's so much fun to me. It's a puzzle to be solved every hand. And if I screw up, if I make a mistake, I don't ever want to be in a place where I'm just angry at myself for doing something. Yeah, I've been there, but I don't like being there mentally. Instead, I like to think of it as, oh man, okay, that didn't work out the way I thought it would work out. I did not put this guy on aces or whatever it is that he had to beat me. I got outplayed, or man, I made a bad decision in that hand. What the heck was I thinking? And then take it that step further and say, okay, what is the lesson here? Why did I miss that read? Why did I, make a bad decision? Why did I, in what way did I screw up the math and get the money in poorly? And take that information. I'm going to fold the king five suited. Take that information and make a tweak to your game so that that does not happen again, or it's much less likely to happen again. That's one of the things that really has propelled me to win at the rate I do and to have the success I've had, is that I've learned for the most part not to whine. I've learned to learn, not whine. And I hope you get there too. It's one of those, it's hard to do things in poker, but remind yourself while you're playing poker. You're playing poker because it's fun. It's to make money and because it's fun. And you enjoy it. There's other ways to make money, folks. You can go get a job at the local Burger King or McDonald's and flip burgers and make $10 an hour. A lot easier than my friend in overseas who's short stacking makes the same amount, but he's in poker and it's stressful and there's variance and there's up and down. There's no guaranteed paychecks every day. But he's figured it out where he's winning that. And he's playing poker because it's fun, because he loves the game as well. So remember that, when you're tilting about your bad play or bad beats or whatever it is, step back and remind yourself, why am I playing? Why am I playing this game? Oh, that's right, because I love it, because it's a fun game, because it's a challenge, because it's a mental challenge to play it, because it's a puzzle to be solved. And I just realized, okay, I've been playing for about a half an hour here, and I am about $85, and I did say I was going to cash out here. So the next time the big blind comes around, I'm going to click the sit out the big blind button, and then play the last few hands and then sit it out. So we'll see how this finishes. Okay. Zone poker's been a little glitchy for me lately. There's been some pauses, and I don't know what's going on. I don't think it's my end. I think it's at their server's end. Okay, so now I'm going to sit out the next big blind and play another 5-6 hands and then sit out. So we've got queens in the big blind here. Value hand. The only two hands that beat us, or that are better than ours right now, are aces and kings. Ace king we're kind of chopping with. And everything else we're ahead of, effectively. So we are going to raise for value. A lot of people want to slow play here. I want to get tricky with their queens. I think I have the best hand. I'm getting my money in. 7-8, 7-9 king, pretty wet board. I think I have to fire into this. And we've got aces. I'm going to let him bluff into us, basically. Let him rep the ace here. Do I believe he has the ace or not? Is the question. Pot's 37, $21. I'm going to fold. Too likely he has an ace there. So just going to let it go. He opened there, could have opened there with a lot of small aces and got stubborn on the flop and then got lucky on that turn. So that's a hand I'll go back and replay in my head and run the math on. But remember, folding 0 EV. So by folding, the worst I'm doing is nothing. It's 0. That money out there doesn't belong to me anymore. It might as well be, in China or something. It doesn't belong to me. It's folding didn't cost me anything. It did not cost me anything to fold there. Yes, I might have made money. Might have been a slightly higher EV to reshove or to call there, maybe, but he was short, relatively short stacked. So I don't think I've got much fold equity. And if he shows up with ace deuce there, I'm just crushed. I'm drawing to him 2 outs. So trying to keep things simple here. So I think I basically broke even here. We had that one little mini rebuy in the beginning where I was down, I don't know, 15, 16 bucks or whatever it was. And now I'm up 15, 16. So very small sample size, but kind of interesting playing this way. Going to fold the 10-4. Still not sold on 50 big blind poker, but it's something different. And I'll play a couple more sessions like this in the next few days, and then contact the blog reader and kind of just talk through impressions and just see if there's anything in there that I might be able to help him with. So that's the plan. So again, hope you guys are doing well. Hope your Friday's good. I've got a big weekend plan. Gonna do a big motorcycle ride with my wife. Okay, so here, short enough stacked. I'm re-raising is not the right play here. Effective stack sizes mean that there's not a lot of pressure I can apply. He's going to get married to a pair of deuces there. Pot committed to a pair of deuces. So that's one of those bright and shiny hands that's best folded. So in that particular case, if we're 100 big blinds deep or more, absolutely consider re-raising there. Would I or wouldn't I? I don't know. I'd have to know. Look at a few more particulars about the hand. But in that case, the effective stack was so low that I think I'm just folding the king jack there suited every time. and I think you should too. But that's the issue with playing 50 big blinds and poker and short stack poker is it takes away a lot of that kind of maneuverability, both on the flop, pre-flop, and post-flop. And one of the things I like about poker is outthinking my opponent's post-flop and extracting maximum value, and it's harder to do that here. So again, not certain I'm going to switch to 50 big blind poker anytime soon, but it is an interesting experiment. And I encourage you guys to do similar things, to try, let me turn down the volume on my music there, to try different things, experiment. For the most part, when you play, you should be playing to win and trying to play your A game in perfect poker and really, red eye yourself into profits. But I do advocate doing exercises, raise fold exercises, where you only raise or fold. You're not allowed to call ever. Exercises where you open raise any button when it's folded to you on the button, regardless of your cards. Exercises where you re-raise every time you're on the button, regardless of what happens in front of you. And that's sometimes pretty painful. So go drop down a stake or two to do that. Those kind of situations, situations where you play only suited connectors, or rather you play any playable hand, but you play every suited connector dealt to you. Those kind of exercises really stretch your brain and make you think more deeply about poker and expected value and what it means to get your money in good and playing position and playing the player and really focuses you on making good reads and forces you to make good reads, I should say. And do things like this, buy in short, buy in for 30 big blinds and see how that affects you. You'll see that it takes away a lot of your implied odds situations and speculative call hand situations. Try buying in for 50 like my reader does and see how you play there. Try different things. Again, don't always do that. In fact, it should be the minority of times that you do that. Majority of times that you play, you should be playing your A game and really instilling those good habits into your play. But get outside your comfort zone. Stretch yourself. Do some things different. Do some exercises, some on-table exercises. And your poker game will get better. So thanks for joining us. I'm going to catch you next time. It's been a while since I posted, so I'm going to try to get back into the swing of doing more of these videos. I've got a couple of European trips and things coming up that are going to be rough for me time-wise, but I'm going to try to do more of these, at least a couple a month, see if I can keep on that pace. So thanks for joining us. I really appreciate your attention, and I hope you got something out of this. So I'll talk to you later. Cheers.